Hello, my name is Dahlia, and 2 weeks ago I received a message from my father while standing at the airport. The plane isn't for you, loser. Take your bags to the train. That was all. No explanation, no warning, just laughter echoing from my family as they boarded the trip I had paid for, without me. But what if that message wasn't even the worst part? What if the real betrayal had been building for years, hidden in quiet charges, buried in receipts I never questioned, wrapped inside birthday celebrations that were never truly mine, and sealed with a smile every time they signed my name to something for their benefit? How do you forgive a family that slowly erases you while still spending your money like you don't exist? I hadn't packed anything extravagant, just a few neatly folded outfits, my travel-size skincare, and a slim leather notebook I always brought along on family trips. That notebook held everything: itineraries, flight confirmations, dinner reservations. I had planned this snap a vacation for months. 3 months of organizing every detail, and most of my spring savings had gone into making it perfect. Outside Austin Bergstrom, I stood beside a luggage cart, holding a lukewarm coffee in my hand. My mother was already posing for selfies with Sable, the favorite. Corbin leaned against the SUV, lost in his phone. My father didn't even look at me when he spoke. "Don't block the lane, Dahlia. Grab the bags. Faster." Typical. I didn't argue. I just moved. Inside the airport, everything blurred together. Voices, rolling suitcases, overhead signs flashing TSA directions. The scent of cinnamon pretzels lingered in the air. I didn't mind the chaos. I had earned this trip. Overtime hours, managing Sable's taxes, co-signing Corbin's loan extension. I had even paid for the resort upgrade last month. But that part was never mentioned. At the check-in counter, I smiled and handed over my ID. The agent scanned it, paused, then typed again. Her expression shifted. "Ma'am, I'm not seeing a reservation under your name." My stomach dropped. I gestured behind me. "I'm with them." She checked again, then shook her head. I turned toward my father. "What's going on?" He didn't respond. My phone buzzed. I opened the message. "The plane isn't for you, loser. Take your luggage to the train." I read it twice before it settled in. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake, a joke, something twisted but temporary. Then I looked up. My mother was laughing behind her phone. Corbin burst out laughing. "Damn, look at her face. Someone take a picture." Everything inside me froze, the kind of stillness where your mind can't catch up with what's happening. People behind me started shifting impatiently. A child whispered, "Is she crying?" I wasn't. Not yet. Harlem stepped closer, his smirk barely hidden. "Watch the house, all right? We'll text if the lawn needs trimming." And then they walked away. Sable swinging her purse, my mother tossing her hair back, disappearing into TSA like I was nothing. No hug, no goodbye, not even a glance back. I stood there until my legs felt stiff, then slowly turned and wheeled my suitcase toward the exit. I didn't cry in the cab. Even when the driver asked if I was okay, I just nodded. I couldn't trust my voice. By the time I got back to my condo, the sun had heated the parking lot into something unbearable. I walked inside, dropped my keys into the bowl, and went straight to the fridge. Spoiled lettuce, half a carton of almond milk, leftovers in the container, probably Corbin's. Then I saw the note. "Packages arriving Tuesday. Don't miss it again."
I stared at it. It had been there before we left. They already knew I wasn't going. This wasn't last minute. This was planned. I closed the fridge slowly and reached for my phone as it buzzed again. Shared calendar reminder. Family trip to Napa, May 6th to 13th. Thanks for covering the house. D. Not Dahlia, just D. Like a label. Like I wasn't even a person. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I sat down on the couch and opened my laptop. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. If they had erased me from this trip, maybe it was time I erased myself from everything else they depended on. The next morning came quietly. Sunlight cut through the blinds in sharp lines across the floor. I made coffee, black, and left it untouched as I paced. Finally, I sat at my desk. A blank spreadsheet stared back at me. Title: Everything They Took. I hadn't made a list before. I didn't know where to begin. So I started with what I could prove. I logged into my bank account. The numbers didn't feel like mine anymore. Tuition payments, normal at first. I had helped Corbin stay in school, but the amounts had increased. When did that happen? Then the golf club fee, my father's. I had agreed to cover it once, years ago. It never stopped. Salon charges, my mother's stylist. I thought it was a one-time gift. It showed up every month. No one asked. No one explained. I kept scrolling. Then I saw 2 accounts I didn't recognize. An HVAC loan, a credit card. I opened the loan first. Borrower, Dahlia Elise. Address, my parents' house. I exhaled slowly. Then the credit card, approved 2 months ago. Charges everywhere. Electronics, wine, hotels. None of it mine. I checked my email for alerts. That's when I saw it. Confirmation of SSN for a health plan. I never signed up for anything. I opened it. My social security number, my birth date, everything verified. I called. Yes, Miss Elise, the account is under your name, but the primary contact is Harlan Elise. My father. I hung up and stared at the wall. It wasn't just the ticket. It wasn't just being left behind. They were living through me, using my identity, spending under my name, and they didn't even bother hiding it. I opened my drawer, receipts stacked inside, proof of everything I had paid for. Flights, insurance, deposits, things that were never mine. A folded invoice slipped out. A Napa Vineyard package, gifted to Vera Elise, paid by D. Elise. My hand shook. This wasn't neglect. This was deliberate. They hadn't forgotten me. They had removed me. I stood up and opened the spreadsheet again. This time, I started typing. HVAC loan, unauthorized. Credit card balance, $51,787, not mine. Health plan, identity misuse. Family trip, funded by me, excluded. Line after line filled the page. 10 entries. Then I stopped, because there were more. So many more. And the realization hit me before I could stop it. They didn't just forget me. They erased me on purpose. I saved the file, twice, and stared at it sitting there in the folder. The cursor kept blinking, but I didn't. That night, I made a decision. I stopped grieving the family I thought I had, and started preparing for the truth they were about to face. I closed my laptop, walked into the living room, and stood by the bookshelf where I kept things that once meant something. I reached for a cloth-covered album tucked between old holiday cards and a box of Polaroids from college. The spine was faded, and the corners had curled from heat and time, but I had kept it neat, like I had once tried to keep us. It was the gift I had planned for the trip, the one I never got to give. Inside were carefully placed photos, some printed, others developed from film. I'd organized them by year, labeled each with captions. There were photos of me as a toddler holding Corbin's hand, of Sable in her graduation gown, of my mom and dad holding sparklers one 4th of July. Everyone laughing, except me.
I was the one behind the camera, always the one recording, arranging, making it all look perfect. I'd included copies of letters from our grandmother, too, one she had written to us when we were young. She used to say I was the quiet glue. I thought that was a compliment. Now the album just felt heavy. I flipped to the final page, an empty plastic sleeve. That's where I'd meant to insert the group photo from the winery, me holding the album, handing it over with a smile. That was the image I'd imagined when I stayed up late editing and printing and organizing. Except that moment never came, and I now realized it never would have, because they had seen the album the morning of the flight. I found it shoved behind the entry table, buried under junk mail. No one had packed it. No one had asked. They didn't forget it. They left it. I closed the cover slowly and stared at it, hands flat on the surface. My chest ached in a quiet, unremarkable way, the kind of ache that doesn't demand tears, just a deeper kind of silence. I sat on the edge of the couch, holding the album in my lap. And that's when the memory hit me. Not as a flash, but like a slow leak, familiar, unwanted, impossible to ignore. It was my 10th birthday. I had been looking forward to it for weeks. I asked for strawberry cake and balloons and to invite my 3 closest friends from school. Mom had said yes. I remember picking out paper napkins with smiley faces on them. But the morning of, she told me plans had changed. Corbin's award ceremony is today, she said, brushing my hair back too hard. You understand, don't you? He worked really hard. I nodded. That night when we got home, there was a cake, but it had his name on it. Chocolate, not strawberry. I remember standing by the hallway, hearing them sing to him. I remember the candles, the applause. I remember carrying my unopened gift back to the closet and sitting on the floor, the door shut behind me. That was the night I learned how to be quiet, how to disappear without making it uncomfortable for anyone else. That was the night I stopped asking for things. Back in my condo, I placed the album gently into a drawer, then locked it. They didn't deserve it. Not anymore. I stood, poured myself a glass of water, and walked to the window. The rain had started, a slow, steady rhythm tapping against the glass. Not dramatic, just persistent, like it had no intention of stopping. I checked my phone. A reminder flashed across the screen. Family Napa trip, May 6th, 10 a.m. wine tour. I held the phone for a long moment, staring at the words. I wasn't surprised they hadn't removed me from the reminders. I was still their default setting, even in exclusion. I hit delete. Then I whispered, barely audible even to myself, I'll give them something to remember. I meant it when I whispered those words, but meaning something and acting on it are 2 different beasts. And the next morning, as I slid my keys off the hook and slipped into my sneakers, I realized I wasn't just cleaning up loose ends. I was closing a chapter. The drive to my parents' house was muscle memory. Every turn, every traffic light, every pothole I'd learned to avoid over the years. But today, the route felt unfamiliar, like I was headed somewhere I no longer had a right to be. The sun was already beating down, a Texas spring pretending to be summer. Birds chirped without urgency. Everything looked normal. That was the part that hurt most. I pulled into the driveway and paused. The house stood still, pristine. Blinds perfectly tilted, porch plants watered. Nothing screamed, "You're not welcome here," but it didn't need to. The silence was enough. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. Same scent of vanilla candles and floor cleaner. The thermostat still set too low, just like Dad liked it. I listened for any sound. Maybe the whir of the dishwasher, the faint hum of the laundry machine. Nothing. It was too quiet. I walked past the entry table, my shoes echoing faintly against the tile. The living room came into view, and I stopped cold. Above the mantel had always been the photo I had printed and framed myself. Our beach trip to Corpus 2 summers ago. The trip I'd paid for, booked the Airbnb, handled the deposits, even packed the extra cooler because Dad hates warm soda. In that picture, we stood together, all 5 of us, with wind-blown hair and sunburned noses, arms awkwardly around each other. That photo was gone. In its place hung a newer canvas, sleek, filtered, overproduced, the same faces -1. Harlan, Vera, Corbin, Sable, no Dahlia. The spot where I'd stood in the original image had been replaced with sky and waves, cropped with such precision it made my stomach turn. I stared at the wall, numb. They didn't replace me, they erased me. I turned and walked slowly to the kitchen. My hand trailed along the counter, clean, clutter-free. Then I saw the paper taped to the refrigerator. Family welcome back barbecue, Saturday, 3 p.m. Guest list, neighbors, church friends, some cousins. No mention of me, not even a bring a dish next to my name. I opened the group chat on my phone. They were still in there. Corbin sending memes, Sable sharing recipes she'd never actually cook. I stared at the thread for a beat, my thumb hovering. Then with one tap, I left the group. I set the phone on the counter. It didn't buzz. No alert. No, why did you leave? Not in the next minute or the next hour. I wandered the hallway, pausing at the bedroom door that used to be mine. It was a guest room now, tastefully beige, throw pillows arranged like no one would ever sleep there. My name no longer lived here. Back in the kitchen, I poured myself a glass of water and stood by the sink. 3 hours passed. I scrolled through emails, paid a bill, answered a work message, checked again. Still nothing. I picked up my phone one more time. Empty. They didn't even notice I was gone, I whispered, barely audible. I never belonged here. And somehow that truth didn't sting. It settled. I walked to the front door, opened the small drawer on the entry table, and retrieved the spare key. I stood there for a long moment, palm sweating slightly as the metal pressed against my skin. Then I stepped outside, walked to the mailbox, and dropped it in. The clang of the mailbox flap echoed louder than it should have. As I locked my car and pulled away, I didn't check the rearview mirror. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The silence after I dropped that key in the mailbox didn't last. I barely made it back to my apartment before my phone lit up. Dad. The screen flashed like a siren, pulsing. I didn't answer. I watched it ring until it stopped, then waited. A minute later, the voicemail notification appeared. I stared at it for a while before pressing play. Dahlia, you're being dramatic. It was a joke, okay? Just a bit of fun before the flight. You always take things too seriously. We love you, but honestly, lighten up. I replayed it once, twice. His voice didn't sound angry, just tired, like I was the one who had disrupted something peaceful, like I was the problem. Each word chipped away at whatever restraint I had left. I muted my phone and sat on the edge of the bed, staring ahead at the wall. There was no picture of my family there, never had been. I thought about the wall in their house, the one that used to hold all of us, now scrubbed clean of my existence. They weren't just moving on, they were replacing me. I walked into the living room and flipped on the small lamp beside the couch. The dim orange light settled like a sigh over the furniture.
I played some low jazz on the speaker. Something familiar, warm, grounding. Then I opened my laptop. The spreadsheet I'd started the night before was still open. Everything they took. I added more. June 2021, some date, $100. Corbin's dental surgery. December 2022, $4,500. Sable's credit card settlement, via mom. March 2023, $2,200. Advance for the trip, lodging, meals, wine tour. That last one hit me differently. I hovered my finger over the mouse, then clicked into the transaction logs. The total cost of their Napa trip. Every penny came from my account. Flights paid, hotel paid, wine tastings, car rental, and the surprise anniversary dinner for mom and dad. All funded by me, quietly, automatically, because at some point I had offered to handle it temporarily while their points cleared, and they never looked back. I clenched my jaw. No wonder they looked so relaxed in those vacation pictures. No wonder they could afford to laugh while I stood alone at the check-in counter like a discarded extra. They had never planned to pay me back, because in their eyes, I didn't need things. I existed to make things easier. That was the unspoken contract, and I had signed it over and over again with my silence, until now. I opened my voice memo app. I didn't know what I was doing at first, just instinct, I guess. I pressed record and spoke. My name is Dahlia Elise. I'm 34 years old, and I've spent the last decade mistaking manipulation for love. I paused, took a breath, and continued. My parents told me that family comes first, that you show love through sacrifice. So I did. I paid, I covered, I agreed. Every time they needed something, I said yes, because that's what you do when you're loyal, when you care. Another pause. My voice cracked, but I kept going. But I see it now. I see how I was convenient, how the more I gave, the more invisible I became. They didn't thank me, they used me, and then they laughed when they left me behind. I hit stop. I didn't delete it. Instead, I saved the file and named it Truth Draft 1. It wasn't for them, not yet. It was for me. I stood, walked to the kitchen, and opened my email. There it was, our shared family account. I hovered over the folder for a second, then right-clicked, rename, do not use, inactive. Next, I sent myself a message. Subject line, May 9th, Declaration of Financial Independence. The body, blank. No explanation needed. I exhaled slowly, then leaned against the counter. The apartment was still quiet, jazz playing softly, the smell of chamomile tea I'd forgotten I made. My phone buzzed. A calendar notification. Barbecue prep. Dahlia brings dessert. I laughed. Not loudly, just enough to surprise myself. They really hadn't noticed a thing. Not the missing key, not the left group chat, not the unanswered call. They still expected me to show up, smiling with a pie in hand, like nothing had happened. That laugh, sharp, short, echoed in the room. It didn't feel like mine. Let's see if they notice now, I whispered, dropping my phone face down on the counter. This time, I wasn't going to ask for respect. I was going to take back what they never intended to give. That laugh, empty as it was, lingered longer than it should have. I turned off the jazz, dimmed the light, and sat in the dark for a few moments, just letting the quiet swell around me. Morning came without ceremony. The city was waking up. Soft traffic sounds rising from the street below.
I moved through my apartment as if on autopilot. Shower, coffee, no toast. I wasn't hungry. My focus was clear, sharp. It was time. I had no grand plan that started with spreadsheets or speeches. It started with one text, a mistake. At 8:23 a.m., my phone pinged with a message I wasn't supposed to see. It came from Corbin, but clearly meant for Sable. Don't worry, she's too soft to actually cut us off. Let her pout.
I read it twice, then again. Let her pout. I set my phone down gently, like it might explode. I didn't scream. I didn't reply. I didn't even save the message. I just stared at it until the screen dimmed on its own. They hadn't just dismissed me. They expected me to come crawling back. They were confident. They thought they had me figured out. I walked to my desk, sat down, opened my laptop. Let's see how soft I really am. I started with the tuition portal, University of Texas system. Corbin's account linked to my checking. I clicked into it, removed my payment method, and typed a brief note into the portal. Please contact your direct sponsor. Financial support has been withdrawn. Next, health insurance. I logged in, navigated to the policy dashboard, found the plan with my SSN tied to my father's supplemental coverage. One click, terminate authorization. Done. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Family, shared cloud storage, phone plan, credit union, secondary card. Click, click, click. I moved like someone defusing bombs. Each cancellation felt like a stitch torn out of my own skin, but cleanly, with purpose. No text, no warning, no explanation. No, I'm sorry, but they'd never given me that courtesy. They didn't deserve it back. I opened the credit union site again and checked for any recurring payments tied to my accounts. There were 5 I didn't recognize, all active. I froze them one by one. I paused at Corbin's name next to a streaming service he loved, one I had helped him sign up for while he was in between jobs. Let him pout, I whispered. By noon, the digital umbilical cord had been cut. No more free rides, no more borrowed identity. I stood up, poured a second cup of coffee, and sat back down as the first alerts started coming in. My phone buzzed once, then twice, then it didn't stop. Tuition payment declined. Policy status suspended. Payment rejected. Netflix premium. Corbin texted first. Hey, something's wrong with my card. I didn't respond. Then Sable, did you cancel the cloud drive? I can't access Mom's photos. I stared at the screen. Photos they cropped me out of. Still nothing from Dad or Mom, until the group chat changed titles from Family, all caps, to Family Chat, no Dahlia. Then I got a new invite to a different thread, Family Core Group. No invitation, just the name staring back at me. I smiled bitterly. I scrolled back to the top of the chat history, read the old messages, my confirmations, my transfers, my no problem, I'll cover it. How polite I had been, how invisible. I closed the chat, muted notifications, and turned the phone face down. I returned to my laptop one last time and pulled up my autopay dashboard. Every account they'd once leaned on deleted. I redirected all charges to my new private checking account, one they didn't know about, one they couldn't touch. Then I did something I hadn't done in a very long time. I closed the laptop, not just the lid, the chapter. The silence that followed was thick, but it didn't ache. It felt earned. I took a long sip of my coffee. Let them feel what absence tastes like. Just as I leaned back into my chair, savoring that first true peace, the doorbell rang. I stood, hesitated, then walked slowly toward it. Through the peephole, I didn't see anyone, but on the doormat, a package set neatly. Medium-sized brown cardboard. No return address. But what caught my eye wasn't the box. It was the post-it note stopped on top. Thought you'd be grown up about this. Guess not. The handwriting was unmistakable. Sable. The note from Sable stuck to that package wasn't long, but it was enough. Thought you'd be grown up about this. Guess not. That handwriting, curvy and patient, had followed me through every holiday card, every chore list stuck to the fridge. But this time, it wasn't just ink. It was insult dressed up as entitlement. I didn't open the box. I didn't even pick it up. I left it there, stepped over it like a piece of junk mail, and shut the door behind me. By mid-morning, the clouds had started to roll in. Not dramatic, just steady and dark. The kind that creep in quietly before a storm breaks. That's when my phone rang again. Lucinda. Her voice was thin through the line. Sweetheart, what's going on? I didn't speak. She continued, soft and unsure. Your dad called me. He said you'd had some kind of emotional episode, that you cut them off suddenly, that you're not well. I closed my eyes. There it was, the beginning of the rewrite. Lucinda, I said calmly. I didn't break down. I woke up. There was a pause. She sighed. I figured just wanted to hear it from you. And then the texts started, one by one. An old high school friend. Hey, I saw something your sister posted. You okay? A coworker. Dahlia, your dad emailed the office trying to confirm your emergency contacts. Seemed odd. 3 unfollows on Instagram. 2 pity likes on an old post of me smiling in a cafe. The digital version of strangers awkwardly avoiding eye contact in a grocery store. It was happening. The whisper network had turned loud. They were painting me unstable, the ungrateful daughter, the one who couldn't take a joke, who flipped without warning, a liability. By noon, I couldn't breathe in my own apartment. The walls felt smaller, the air heavier. I grabbed my keys and drove. No music, no destination. I just drove until my hands stopped trembling. I ended up on Lucinda's porch in Waco, like I used to when I was younger, and needed space, but didn't know how to ask for it. She opened the door before I knocked. "Come on in," she said, already heading to the kitchen. I made peach tea. We sat on the porch swing. Rain pattered softly against the overhang. Then she handed me her tablet. "Have you seen this?" I hesitated, then took it. It was a video, a highlight reel labeled Family Memories, Napa and Homecoming Barbecue. I hit play. There was music, soft piano edited to sound inspirational, smiling faces, Dad carving brisket, Sable laughing under string lights, Mom clinking glasses with Corbin. Photos transitioned into video clips, wine pours, slow-motion dances, toasts. But something was wrong. I was nowhere, not in a single frame. Even the clips I remembered being in, my voice during the toast, my hand helping set the table, were missing, skipped, trimmed, removed. The music even dipped into silence briefly, right when I should have been speaking. I watched all 5 minutes, then played it again. Lucinda didn't speak. She didn't have to. When the video ended, I handed the tablet back. "They didn't just leave me behind," I said. My voice felt like it belonged to someone else. "They're trying to erase me." Lucinda placed the tablet on the side table and looked at me. Then maybe it's time the truth had a louder voice. I sat in silence, staring at the rain. No yelling, no planning, just the heavy certainty that I had nothing left to protect. Later that evening, I sat in her guest room with the door slightly ajar. The walls smelled faintly of lavender and old books. I opened my phone, found the voice memo app, and hit record. No script, no rehearsal. "My name is Dahlia. I was born into a family that believed love was obedience, that service was silence, that value meant keeping your mouth shut and your wallet open." I took a breath, and I went along with it for years, because I thought that's what good daughters did. I spoke for 6 minutes, calm, specific, factual. Every dollar, every favor, every erasure. When I finished, I sat back and let the silence wrap around me. Then my phone buzzed. One text from Sable. "You need to stop now." I smiled. Not because it was funny, because it was predictable. They had taken everything they could, and now they wanted to take my truth too. But this time, I didn't freeze. I picked up the mic. I pressed upload without blinking. Not because I was fearless, because I had nothing left to protect. My voice, steady and precise, now lived in a private link shared with Lucinda and 2 distant cousins who had once treated me like a person, not a resource. The message wasn't loud. It didn't accuse or scream. It was simply the truth.
A clear accounting of how I had paid for everything while being treated as if I had contributed nothing. Dates, amounts, statements, screenshots of the wine tour receipt, the insurance confirmation under my name, the tuition transfer receipts labeled from Delise. There was no drama, only documentation. I didn't wait for replies. I didn't check the inbox. I closed the laptop and poured myself a glass of water, feeling my hands shake only slightly. Just after sunset, there was a knock at the door. This time, it wasn't drama dressed up as concern. It was Lucinda, holding a yellowed envelope in her hands like it might crumble if handled too roughly. "I found this in a box of old books from your grandmother's house," she said, voice gentle. "I think she meant it for you, but, well, things got buried." I took it with both hands. It was sealed, the handwriting unmistakable. Inside was a single sheet of paper folded into thirds. "Dear Dahlia, by the time you read this, I hope you've stopped making yourself small to make everyone else more comfortable. You are not difficult. You are not wrong for needing space or asking questions. You are the heart of this family. Even when they forget,
Remember I saw you. Love you forever, Grandma Ruth. I read it twice before the tears came. Not out of pain, but out of relief, of being seen even in absence. That letter did what no apology from Harlan or Vera ever could. It reminded me I had been real. I had mattered. I spent the rest of the night in quiet. No TV, no music, just the wind brushing past the window and the weight of knowing I was finally free to let go. The next morning, I printed a check for the last bill they had left unpaid, Sable's car insurance, which had come out of my account every month like clockwork. I folded it neatly into a white envelope, along with the spare key I had retrieved from the mailbox. I included one note, just one sentence. From now on, my name funds no one but myself. Late afternoon, I drove to my parents' house for the last time. It was strange how familiar every corner of that neighborhood still felt, even as I knew I'd never return. I didn't knock. I didn't ring the bell. I slipped the envelope into their mailbox, shut the metal door, and walked away. Not a single step faltered. Not a single glance over my shoulder. There was no performance left to give. No more proving my worth. Back at my condo, I opened my accounts one final time. Every shared access point had been removed. Every password changed. Bank alerts cleared. Cloud storage reset. They could not touch me anymore. Then came the final shift. The family group chat was gone. Not archived, deleted. My number no longer listed. No texts, no calls, no memes, no guilt trips disguised as inside jokes. Just a perfect quiet vacuum. I breathed in. It wasn't peace from them. It was peace from needing them. That night, I curled into bed without checking my phone, without rehearsing a comeback or expecting a blow. I simply rested, my grandmother's letter under my pillow. As I drove to the store the next day, planning to open a new account under my name alone, the voicemail icon blinked. I ignored it. It didn't matter what they had to say anymore. For the first time, my voice was louder. The world was quieter now, not because they had changed, but because I had. 2 weeks had passed since I uploaded the recording. I hadn't shared it publicly. I didn't need to. It traveled on its own, passed from cousin to cousin, neighbor to neighbor, carried by whispers far louder than any post ever could. One morning, I opened my inbox to find a message from my dad's brother. Subject, I'm sorry. He wrote 2 lines. I didn't know the extent of it. That wasn't right. You deserved better. No excuses, no justification, just acknowledgement. For the first time in my life, someone from the inside admitted I wasn't crazy for noticing the wrongness. There were others too. A distant aunt who had always favored Sable messaged to ask how I was holding up.
A second cousin I hadn't seen since I was 16 sent me an email that simply said, I believe you. The air felt different now. Not light exactly, but breathable. And then came the ripple. Lucinda called to tell me she'd overheard a conversation at the community club where my parents used to frequent. Harlan had shown up furious. His card declined at the bar. Someone had made a joke. He hadn't laughed. Vera had stopped attending yoga. According to a neighbor, she told everyone she was taking a break to recenter. Lucinda said it plainly. No one's buying it. Corbin's university called the house asking for updated financials. Apparently his tuition was overdue. His voicemail to me was polite, overly cheerful. Hey Dahlia, just checking in. Hope all is well. No pressure, but if you get a chance, maybe we can talk. I didn't reply. Then there was Sable. She posted a quote to her Instagram story, white cursive over a hazy ocean background. Forgiveness isn't about them. It's about freeing yourself. No caption. Comments turned off. It was the social media version of a sideways apology. Not to me, of course, but to her audience, her followers, the ones who didn't know what the wine tour had cost, or who paid for it. I didn't care. I wasn't looking for reconciliation. I wasn't waiting for an apology that would never come. So I did what I should have done years ago. I took the old photo album, the one with all the trips I organized, the birthdays I paid for, the holidays I held together, and I drove to Grandma Ruth's grave. The cemetery was quiet, the grass trimmed, the breeze soft. I sat beside her stone, knees folded, album on my lap. I won't carry this anymore, I whispered. Thank you for seeing me. I didn't cry. I just breathed. For the first time in months, it didn't feel like something was stuck in my throat. I left the album there, leaning against the stone. Someone else could hold the memories now. I was finished. That weekend, I started my new job, a nonprofit that helped women get out of financial abuse. My role was simple. Teach them how to reclaim access, build credit, close the accounts no one told them they had. The work wasn't glamorous, but it was meaningful.
and I showed up whole. My bank account now held only my name. No cosigners, no hidden beneficiaries. I opened a new phone plan, one line, no family bundle, no more group texts with snide jokes, no more automated requests for money. Just my name, Dahlia Elise. Not D, not kiddo, not the quiet one, just me. On Sunday afternoon, I took a walk through the neighborhood park. The sun filtered through the branches overhead, casting soft gold patches across the grass. Birds chirped, not as a soundtrack, but as background, as something steady and still. I sat on a bench and watched a child, no more than 4, run across the grass, arms flailing, giggles loud and uncontained. She turned, eyes wide, calling, "Mama!" as she crashed into her mother's waiting arms. I didn't envy them. I didn't ache. I smiled. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just free. Sometimes the hardest part isn't walking away. It's realizing you should have done it a long time ago. Dahlia's story reminds us that silence can be mistaken for consent, and loyalty shouldn't mean losing yourself. When you set boundaries, some people will call it betrayal, but maybe they never truly cared for the real you. Have you ever had to cut ties with family to protect your peace? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that hit close to home.